Ongoing protests in Hong Kong are becoming more chaotic and violent. A general strike on Monday brought parts of the city to a standstill. Demonstrators blocked roads and delayed train services. Police fired tear gas and rubber bullets at the crowds. Close to 100 people were arrested. Hong Kong's leader, Carrie Lam, has vowed to restore law and order and is rejecting calls for her resignation. Now, for more, we are joined now by Alex Lowe, a columnist with the South China Morning Post. He joins us here in Toronto in studio. So, Alex, protests began peacefully and now they've turned violent. Do you think you could sort of walk us through this transition we're seeing?
I think initially in early June, there were two massive protests that there were hundreds of thousands of people. Some people said in a million, depending on your estimates. And those more or less forced the government to give up on the extradition bill, which was the trigger for the current crisis. Now the conflict has escalated into basically an anti-government movement, not just against the Hong Kong government, but very much against the central government as well. So it had basically spiraled and escalated much more in the past 2 weeks.
Now, in terms of also steps that need to be taken in order to sort of quell the situation that we are seeing unfold in Hong Kong, what steps would you suggest need to be taken to sort of appease both sides here?
At the moment, various people have suggested ideas and proposals that could push things forward in the right direction. At the moment, there's no sign of that, only escalations. One problem is that the opposition, the legislator in the oppositions, they don't have much street cred or street credibility with the protesters. So they can't really speak for the protesters or negotiate for them. On the other hand, the government, the Hong Kong government, the top official have taken a leave of absence. They seem to be ruling government by press releases and press conferences, such as the one that was held on Monday. So that means that the people who ought to be talking and push things in the right direction are not showing up. So you ended up with the police on one side, the protester on the other, and of course things are going to escalate if that's all the two sides have.
Now, we saw Chief Executive Carrie Lam came out yesterday and addressed the protesters, and essentially she's vowing to restore law and order. Did she say enough?
I believe the English expression is lame duck. She is now the lamest of duck. Nobody pay attention to her. She's not doing anything and hasn't proposed any solution to forward. She's just repeating the same thing that she's been saying for the past 8 weeks. So there's not much point to her leadership at the moment.
Now, also, we know, looking ahead, that Beijing will hold a briefing in just a few hours for the second time since the handover in 1997. What do you expect to see come out of that?
Last time, the people expect a lot. They ended up repeating the same positions. This time they probably will just reiterate. One thing they want to emphasize is that Carrie Lam is not quitting. The accepted narrative is that she actually wanted to quit, but the central government wouldn't let her. So the central government and the Macau-Hong Kong office in Beijing keep saying that, oh, yeah, we support the police and we support Carrie Lam. I imagine they would reiterate the support that they've been talking about for several weeks now.
So if you're anticipating the reiteration there of support in terms of the future of these ongoing protests that we have seen the situation devolve into an awfully violent one, do you expect that to continue? How long could that possibly go on for?
Well, it could go on for a while. I mean, the yellow shirts in Paris have gone on for months. So this is Hong Kong. I mean, unless there are people who could come out and have the credibility to push things forwards and to to discuss, such as the one way, for example, people have talked about an amnesty for the protesters who have been arrested, and possibly a commission of inquiry looking into how this whole thing has gone so terribly wrong. These are possible solutions, things that would come forward, but there's no movement on that. And in fact, I believe Carrie Lam has basically rejected those ideas. So at the moment, obviously, it's not a law enforcement issue. This whole thing is not going to go away by law enforcement through the police. The police are being demoralized and exhausted. The protesters are getting more and more aggressive. So at the moment, I don't see any way forward other than perhaps eventually the two sides will exhaust themselves. But at the moment, it's just escalations.
All right, well, a lot to continue to watch on that front. Thank you so much for your time today, Alex.
My pleasure.
Alex Lowe is a columnist with the South China Morning Post.